Hello everyone, and I'm making my return. As you saw in the post, I'm starting a new multi-Wicso with a friend of mine, and possibly a few others if we decide to expand it to there. And as you know, it's on an alternative map, which you've not seen fully. You've seen this sort of area from the post, but we'll get there as we sort of expand ourselves. Where we will start our new Wicso is in a similar location to our previous one, around Gyro. We see tribes, not tribes, but the remnants of whatever form of civilization or whatever existed spawn in, but sort of just to map out, sort of realise the location surrounding it. As they map out the location surrounding it, they will then settle down to form early civilization around this small peninsula. And this is more or less where they will remain for the next century or so. They build up population to eventually expand. And in early expansion after the centuries they wait, they will expand down the coast, largely with naval sort of presence too, as they eventually stumble across this sort of lake area and continue to sort of explore south. We'll additionally find the Sinai. That's not going too far down it. It'll then, as civilization does, expand greatly, getting to this sort of shape in which they will go yet another dormant phase as they sort of build up their trade routes internally and grow in population and populate the new expanded areas, in which we'll see some for the monarchy sort of rise in power. As the monarchy rises in power, sort of replacing the more tribalistic ideas of the previously newer form state, as a singular monarchy will sort of rise up above all and start to lead the new nation on a shared ethnic identity. And after 50 or so years, the population will be large enough to continue to sort of expand as they explore largely around the coastal areas, getting quite far through Egyptian land, getting up to this part. It will also explore around this lake, trekking down more on the coast, and yet again they will continue to expand outwards and along this lake in the Mediterranean, going down, and at this point we'll start to see some sort of rifts. This newer territory, whilst being very sparse in population, at this point would travel all the way to what would be a more capitalistic region over here it's quite hard, and people in the newer farm region after maybe a generation or two sort of feel left out from the main part of this country, as whilst it's still very not decentralized, local lords still mainly rest in here with given this occupation. So what we will actually see is the Declaration of Independence from a lot of these more up here sort of lands. And well, the red team will not be a big fan as they quickly send their army, which, if they even had a professional army, would easily best this sort of rebellion. And these people who feel wronged by their original country, the monarchy, they're not going to punish them to say. However, they will allow them to go seek their own independence away from the red country. In which, well, they will jump at the offer. As sort of people from the red country start making not a voyage, but a very long travel, eventually getting to this region, in which they will stop exploring, not truly, but stop going westwards mainly. So just call this place their new home, setting up their own blue country, which is focused on them having a central control in a small state. They don't want to expand. They think they're good as they are, and they will only expand when the population and land can't accommodate each other perfectly. So their whole thing, do not expand. Do not expand, or they will break apart like the red team started to do. But yeah, all is continue to not be amazing for the red team, because whilst that's happening, explorers in the Sinai, or whatever they know it as, so explored a little bit more, but not being connected by land. These two sort of areas aren't complementing each other all that well. And these people, similarly to the people over here, feel left out, so will, in similar cahoots, declare independence. And well, these people have a few army loyalists who will actually sort of defend them, and the people militia, they'll also sort of rise up as they saw how, not violently, but how abruptly the blue team was put down. Sinai will have their own little militia, and because they're also separated by sea, it's much harder for the red team to come and attack. But they try and they fail and are forced to recognize the green independence. And the green team in the Sinai, who are start calling teams by where they are really more than colour. So we've got Egypt, the Sinai. They will start to do their expanding whilst not being hostile with the red, just more keeping to themselves. We eventually see the Greens team sort of getting to the end of the Sinai and start to explore back up. The north part being explored, sort of, yeah, exploring. These two groups will eventually meet up, and the green team will have a strong lead in expanding and exploring their sort of area. They will also discover that this land exists, so will the red team really. It's the more northern part. They'll sort of explore the water side of it too whilst they're at it, whilst not making land onto this part here. And they will also, as we saw in a common theme, when people explore, they will also expand. They try and form a fairly large area around Sinai. That's not aiming to be too. They want to be big. They want to be strong, so they can always defend the Egyptians. They don't want to be dominated by the Egyptians. Sinai's don't. They want to be alone and be them, but be separate from Egypt. We'll also see in the 300 years after the rebirth of civilization, countries will sort of set up their own. They're going to start setting up their own major capitals if they haven't already. The green team will build theirs where the Rush team first landed, and the red team will build theirs right about here where they first was born, and the blue team will build theirs right there to build a nice port city so they can do trade in the future, because these people, they're quite smart. They understand that eventually the red team and them will meet, whether that be by land or by sea. They're gonna need to trade with the red team whenever they meet, or if they meet any other countries that appear. And the red team did not learn their lesson, as to combat the losses in land they took from those two countries declaring independence. They will continue to expand themselves. Expand. That's a new one. They will continue to sort of expand, focusing more south as they explore the lake sort of region. Eventually they will encompass it. This lake will sort of be known, and sort of fishing establishments will be set up around the edges once I actually stop doing this expansion layer. New fishing establishments will be set up around the coast. They also sort of go around the Red Sea coast too a little bit, try to compete with the Cynesians, as they will now be known. Well, but Egypt will have a greater goal to just control this control around here. They sort of settle around this sort of lake vicinity. Also do a little bit more expanding up here around the Mediterranean. Cool. And while this big sort of sea area above them will actually begin to interest them more, as some rogue sailors say they saw land up north, but they don't know how far north. These will also get to the green team, which they will also jump on the bandwagon and try and explore more of the sea. In one voyage, we'll see a boat go sailing north, mainly being very rockety with the winds and such, steering off course a fair bit, in which, well, be sent severely off course as they start heading directly crashing into what would be known as modern day Crete. And whilst landing on it, it's undiscovered land, which brilliant, exactly what they wanted. However, they don't know how to get back. They are completely stranded. With limited food and limited supplies, they're gonna need to take measures to make sure they can in fact survive. Measures will include setting up their own sort of establishment of a sailing society, which will be based right here on the island of the peninsula of Crete. So yeah, whilst the map is not very explored, we have 4 nations as of now. They need to set up their own capital, in which they'll establish it right where they landed. This will become their main hub of sailing, as they sort of establish this. This is where they want to be. This is where they need to be to eventually get back to Egypt. So that's where they will establish their only city, the capital city. And the time has come where the blue team, they're starting to get a little bit overcrowded, and they need a bit more room. Farmland, it's not quite keeping up with the population, and the urban areas isn't keeping up with the population either. They must grow, in which they will look west, travelling along the coast, of course also sailing around, but on some voyages around the coast, they'll additionally see this upper area in which the blue team will sort of land. So now they've found either an island, which, cool, new island, new land, or they found what could be a lake, which would also be as which they could get free water and stuff like that. I don't know. They're just happy. They are just really happy to see it. Yeah. And they will immediately settle this coastal land, in which farming and cities and fishing will all take place in the blue state. The blue state, which will be known as Carthage. Tensions also rise in the green nation. Only a century or so year older generation, the oldest generation, could possibly even remember being under red rule. And these are the southern area of the green nation. In similar cahoots to what the blue team felt under the red team, felt they was being ruled by not foreign but faraway aristocrats and lords who didn't know what they was feeling and how they was feeling. And they wanted more secular southern rule, apart from being dominated from the north. And there'll be a few rebellions, but there won't be anything truly major. Nothing that will destroy the nation. However, what will occur, which will be blamed, maybe rightly or wrongly, in their rebellions, is the assassination of the monarch of the Green Nation will occur, in which the authorities in the Sinai Nation will call it quits. They've had enough of the South, which they blame for the assassination, and with the military will start to crack down on these rebellions and anyone who speaks out against the Green State. The Sinai will turn to a more authoritarian regime under the new monarch, and the people of the South, they're not having it. They will sort of rise up in rebellion. The opening days of the rebellion will hastily take out the south parts and begin to have this sort of vicinity. With a fair few of the officers and soldiers of the Green Nation who came from south, they will actually switch over sides and start to begin to support their host nation. Well, not host nation, but where their homes are, where they lived and where they sort of raised. They'll fight for the southern Sinai, in which, of course, the Red will, quote-unquote, secretly, in which, of course, to seeking to disrupt an enemy, the Red team will directly and very openly support and fuel the southern Sinai state, not wanting them to have maybe an aggressive, friendly state on their coastal border in the name of the Lime Team, really. Because they will now be known as the Lime Team. These are the Green Team. Both occupy the Sinai, but are very different culturally, in my opinion. Yeah. With more Red support, there will be a continued, easily rage-fueled push by the southern Sinai as they take the coast and this sort of upper area. Eventually, Red troops will show up. Reportedly, Red troops will show up speaking native Egyptian, but they don't know. And a grand offensive which will cut off the capital from the mainland, leading to more or less a surrender of these two countries. Well, this country, two pockets. Which peace deal, very, very simple. The southern Sinai country, instead of just declaring independence, the Red team will push them into just taking over the country. And with them taking over, the capital that was here will be moved. Instead of it being in the north of the country, it will be moved from up here, located down to here, in which, well, a very unpopular move with people in the north, which don't truly get a say in the new country anymore. However, in response to this, many of the people here actually, let's give a number. Let's say Sinai country originally had 2 million people. I know it might be unrealistic for the time period, seeing as probably only in the late 3rd, early 4th century. But yeah, the people in this country, maybe 2/3 lived in the north, 1/3 living in the south, and then 1/3 of that, which comes from the north, will flee, leading to about 7,000 people. I know, unrealistic, but 700,000 people will flee up the coast of the Mediterranean, eventually just stopping short of Turkish areas, as they will actually sort of just stop in this Syrian, Lebanon sort of region, explore out. And with them sort of stopping their expansion, they will officially settle and re-establish the Lime team, now known as Syria, instead of their former name of the Sinai. Of course, the monarchy, they will not survive this sort of journey. They would have been executed upon the southern Sinai state reaching the capital, which would actually lead us to have our first little republic here, actually, because the blue team, I didn't say it, but they will actually be a monarchy. And these people are like a democratic republic. They're a republic run by more aristocrats, so high-ranking lords and nobles that fled from the former country to here. And yeah, with the birth of this new country and the death of its former self, and much expansion from the red team and the blue team and the new teams, I will end the video here. So the next video you will see will not be by me, it will be by my friend, which you saw in the post. Yeah, it will be by him. I'm kicking it off, but he will continue it. So see you personally on episode 3.